Most of us are familiar with a normal raised bed garden, which is what we have right here. It's all composted, everything is ready to go, it's ready to be planted. But we're going to do something a little bit different with these two brand new raised beds here. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or not, hugel culture. Now, we have built a hugel mound right here, and our honeyberries are happily growing in it as well as our strawberries. Now, I don't think that hugel mounds work very well for annuals, but I think they work great for perennials. So these two beds right here, we are building specifically for strawberries and asparagus, mostly because I need to give my kids a space that they can pick their own strawberries from, and I can use the rest of them for freezing. So the first thing we need to do, we're actually turning this lawn into more growing space. So we are laying down our newspaper on the inside of the bed. Number one, because it's a little easier on us. We're pretty tired after building this normal raised bed garden over here. We're gonna overlap it really heavily, and then we're gonna layer all of our pieces on top of the newspaper, and the newspaper is gonna stop the grass from growing into the bed. All right, so once you have your newspaper in the bottom of your beds here, which is going to help kill the grass, it's also going to encourage worms to come up into the bed, and they're gonna start helping to break down what we're gonna put in next. I did also want to mention, so under this newspaper here, we have 1/4-inch hardware cloth, and that is going to stop the voles that we have that really like to destroy everything that we plant. Layer number 2 is going to be large logs. It's great if they're already starting to break down like this one, which has been on the edge of our garden here. That it already has plenty of activity going on, so that's going to kind of kickstart our bed. There's tons of pill bugs. We don't have to worry about those. It'll be just fine. They're going to stick with the wood, breaking that down. So we're going to go with the really large logs on the bottom layer. We've got a whole pile of them here. And then we're going to move to smaller branches and sticks. I know a lot of you are going to freak out and you're going to say, Esther, why are you putting pine needles in your beds? It'll be fine since we're not mixing anything. We're just adding things in layers. It won't tie up any nitrogen and everything will be fine. So our first layer is the newspaper. The second layer is all of these bigger logs. Now we don't want to do too many. These aren't huge beds. All this is going to do is provide good nutrition for all of the plants that are going to be growing in here for a really long time. We're going to start adding in smaller sticks. All right, we have all of our layers of large wood to all the way up to tiny little sticks and even some pine needles in these beds. We're not going super crazy with it. Now we're going to take this topsoil that we've got in the tractor bucket, and we're going to do a nice thick layer all the way up till about this line right here. And then we're just going to finish the bed off like we've finished off these normal beds. Now, you might be wondering, if you haven't started your own hugel mound, can you turn an existing bed into a hugel mound? And the answer is yes. It's just a little bit extra work. You just got to dig everything out and do it again. And you can do that, no problem. You could even just dig it down a little ways and start over, and then just keep building up as you go. Now our top layer, once we get all the plants established in here, so we probably won't do this until the fall, is going to be a wood chip mulch on the top. And that's just going to keep feeding the plants. Before we add the wood chips though, since it's the spring and our plants will not be very established, we're going to go ahead and use an annual mulch, something like straw. We're probably going to use the goat bedding from the winter, and that should do great and feed our strawberries and asparagus until they get really established, and then we'll change it over to the wood chip mulch in the fall. Now we have our topsoil on here, and the next load is coming. It is our goat bedding. Some of it's broken down, some of it's not, but we're going to add that on. It's going to be really great. to remember when you're building a hugel style bed is build fertility over time. Once you build that fertility, you really don't have to keep inputting over and over and over. Now, because these are raised bed systems rather than in-ground, it will still require a small amount of input each fall or spring, depending on when I get to it. But it's not a big deal. It will still be better than if I would have just mixed in a tiny bit of compost. So these will be supercharged beds that are going to provide food for our strawberries and asparagus for years to come.